On this story, we cross live to Craig McCulloch in Vancouver. Craig, tell us more about this state of emergency declared in Ontario province.
Well, this state of emergency is very specific to what is happening there on the ground. Anybody who violates the orders under the state of emergency can be fined up to $100,000 Canadian, which is 80,000 US dollars or 69,000 euros. They can also be sentenced to 1 year in jail, and they can also have any personal or commercial licenses revoked. Which means if you're a trucker, you won't be able to drive a truck, and if you're there in a personal vehicle, you're going to have to learn to use public transit or bicycle anywhere you go to work.
And authorities have been vowing to unblock the major border crossings where truckers have been converging in recent days. What's the latest on those border blockages?
There right now is 3 border blockages and a protest, one out here in Vancouver. The major one is the Ambassador Bridge between Windsor, Ontario, and Detroit, Michigan. It's the busiest border crossing right along the entire Canada-U.S. border, which is the longest undefended boundary in the world. And it's very important to the automotive industry. And because of that, a lot of the auto plants in Windsor, Ontario have had to shut down some product lines, production lines, send people home early, and that's on the verge of happening now on the Michigan side. And that's all major manufacturers that you can think of that produce cars in that area. We also got a border crossing in Alberta, Coutts, Alberta, and Sweetgrass, Montana. A lot of agricultural products go through that border. It's more rural than anything. It's south of Calgary, Alberta. And one that popped up yesterday here in Canada is between Emerson, Manitoba, and Pembina, North Dakota, which is also a rural area, but does carry a lot of trade in agriculture. There is about $2 billion worth of trade that crosses the Canadian border every day, and that's in U.S. dollars. Also out here in Vancouver area, and all these protests in Canada and in France, New Zealand, Australia, and around the world all actually started here in Vancouver back in January. We have protests near a border crossing in suburban Vancouver. They have yet to block that border, but they're standing on the sidewalks and yelling and cheering. The city of Windsor and a couple of automotive groups have today gone into a virtual courtroom, thanks to COVID. It's been on Zoom apparently, to try to get an injunction to remove the protesters and the trucks that are blockading that bridge from Detroit again into Windsor, Ontario.
And how have authorities been responding to the situation in Ottawa? The capital has been paralyzed for several days now.
It has been, and it may only grow this weekend because more protesters go to Ottawa on the weekend. We have protests right here across the country as well. That Ontario state of emergency declaration would come into effect in Ottawa. The authorities have been trying to find tow truck drivers, and these are major rigs. They're huge vehicles. They're not the type of car that you and I might use to get to work or go to the grocery store. All the tow truck companies in Ottawa have said, no, we don't want to get involved. So they may have to bring in tow truck operators from the United States or bring in some heavy equipment. What heavy equipment, we do not know. But again, the Premier of Ontario, Doug Ford, has vowed to take some pretty hardcore action and take their trucks away, or at least take away their license if they don't comply.